project for someone, and part of the project is to generate a whole bunch of images of humans. And I'm in here and I'm creating these images, and it's fascinating because you can say Black person, you can say African American person, you can say Native American, you can say Indian, you can say, but the results you get are very different. You could say Pakistani, you could say, for example, if I say athletic, muscular, overweight, slightly overweight, those words generate different images inside of the image generator that I'm using. Doesn't always work that way, and some of the image generators are not great, right? But some of them are amazing. So at this point, I've used like CArt, I've used ChatGPT, I've used Gemini, I've used Kling, I've used a bunch of them. It is mind-blowing what is possible. It is mind-blowing the results that you get when you're generating these images. And so I'll say, woman from Afghanistan of American descent who is slightly overweight, wearing a whatever. You can go on and on and on in your prompting. You can get exactly what you are looking for with some caveats. But as these models get better, as the image generation gets better and better, you can create exactly what you want in terms of the image that comes back to you. And what's happening right now is the same thing is happening in video, where you can go and create a video from a text prompt. And as I'm doing this, I'm actually creating a situation where I'm having kind of an emotional connection to some of these characters that I'm creating, which is a little weird in itself, because I know that the characters that I'm creating aren't real, right? There are people that I'm looking at on my screen right now. I can't really share this exact project with you because it's for a client, but the people that I'm looking at on my screen, I'm like, oh, wow, she's kind of cute. Or like, oh, wow, I feel bad for him. This is not real. These people are not real. The ones that I'm looking at on my screen right now don't actually exist, but they're based on all of us. It's based on a conglomeration of all of us. All of these models have scanned millions and in many cases billions of images that are from all of us. And now they're also being trained on their synthetic versions. So there's all of us real humans who had images, and then there are all of us other images that have been generated that are now going back in and training the models on what humans look like. And people are thumbs upping, thumbs downing. The models are learning from all of us. But I'm having these emotional responses to not real things. And so part of me is like, is this good for me? That I'm generating all these images. How do I actually feel about this? Hey, Siobhan, thanks for commenting. Appreciate it. And whoever else is in here, hi. I just went live because it's the easiest way to record. But if you're in here, hi. Feel free to comment, and we'll have a chat. I'm just blown away. So I'm having this thought of like, is this good for me? And then I have this other, I don't know, spiritual, metaphysical experience with this, where the words that we get to use with these models, it's not that much different than the words that we actually use in our life. See, if I look at this camera and go, screw you, that's very different than I love you, right? And I can convey those two things to someone with the words that I choose to use. And I can also convey the words that I use to describe someone to someone else. Oh, there was this girl and I saw her and she was kind of overweight, right? We create our reality through the words that we use, and these models are showing us that we are actually the creators of our reality. Now, is that reality? I don't know. Those lines are getting so blurred right now with all of these models and all of this tech that's available to all of us. It's free. Go to ChatGPT right now. If you haven't done it, sign up. Go type in something. Hyper-realistic 4K photo of a woman washing clothes in the river in rural India. See what you get. And then see what happens if you say hyper-realistic 4K photo of woman washing clothes in the river in India, period. Woman is poor, woman is very overweight. Versus woman is poor, woman is highly attractive. Versus woman is poor, woman is whatever. And then say man washing clothes down by the river. Man is very overweight. Man is... It's fascinating that the words that we use to describe what images we want on some metaphysical, spiritual level, also, this is a representation of how the world actually works. Hi, New Lee. Thank you for saying hi. I have gone live like once before, and it was to do rap lyrics. So it's exciting. Actually, it's fun to have people in here and actually be looking at the camera and see people come in. Anyway, I don't have too many more thoughts on this exactly at the moment right now. It's just amazing, this emotional attachment that I'm having to these NPCs, these non-existent characters. They don't actually exist, but I'm creating them with my words, and it has this other level of meaning to it for me, where all of these systems now let us, it's like that. Okay, I do have a couple more things to say about this. The amazing thing about AI, if you're in here and watching this, New and Shaban, if you're still in here, nobody's in here anymore. Okay, well, I'm just going to be saying this for myself. If you're using these models, it is very much like the genie that pops out of the lamp. The genie that comes up and says, hey, what do you need? Right? The genie always comes out, here's your 3 wishes. What do you want for your 3 wishes? Well, these models say, what is your wish? It's unlimited only by my power to compute that for you and your monthly subscription fee, right? ChatGPT is $20 a month. Gemini is $21 a month, right? So it's limited only by what you're paying to the system. Hi, whoever just came in. Limited only by what you're paying to the system, right? Paying to the AI model. And it's a genie that's come out of the lamp and said, what do you need? Just tell me what you need. And in fact, you can talk to ChatGPT and get what you need, what you want. It's not going to be that long in the future before we have physical things in our physical world that are already doing this for us. The thing about the genie story is that in the genie story, it always is like the genie's a little devious. The genie is coming out of the lamp and he's got an ulterior motive. You know, he wants to give you, the guy who wants everything turned to gold, right? King Midas wants everything I touch should turn to gold. And so he gets his wish, and then everything he touches literally turns to gold, meaning he turns his loved ones to gold when he tries to give them a loving touch. And as a result of that, he ends up hating what he's been given through his wish. Your wish is granted. Great, it ruins your life. I think these AI models are very much like that genie. And I think there's a lot of people who think it has an ulterior, awful motive, or that it's here to hurt us. But the thing about the genie story that nobody ever does in the genie stories is to say, hey, genie, what do you need to know from me about what I might want in order to give me everything that I want in this life? Nobody ever asks the genie that question. You could go to the genie, ChatGPT, right now, or you could go, I just consider it like the genie. And it probably doesn't have an ulterior motive, but it might come across to you like it has an ulterior motive if you don't go to it and say, what do you need to know from me about X in order to help me get what I want? Now, almost every single prompt that I open up in ChatGPT, I go in and say, I am trying to X. I would like you to help me X by doing Y, right? Fill in X and Y for whatever your thing is. ChatGPT, Gemini, Grok, Claude, DeepSeek, whatever you're using. I am trying to X. I would like you to help me X by helping me by doing Y. And if you even don't know what Y is, if you don't know what it can do for you, that's fine. I would like to X. And then the next thing to ask it is, what do you need to know from me in order to help me X? Fill in X, whatever the thing is that you want, whatever the thing is that you're trying to do. I would like to be a better parent. I have 2 kids. What do you need to know from me in order to help me be a better parent? Please ask me questions. And then add this. Ask me questions one at a time. So the words that we use are actually creating the results we get back. And if you consider it like a genie popping out of a lamp, but that the genie knows nothing about you. I was having a conversation with a friend about, I said, well, what do you think of when you're like going to ChatGPT and typing in something? Well, I consider it like the professor in the classroom. I said, okay, and you don't get the results you want? He's like, no. And I said, did you tell it it's the professor in the classroom? He said, what do you mean? I said, did you tell it that it's the professor in the classroom? See, if you're sitting in a classroom and you raise your hand to ask a question, there's context. There's a professor in front of the room. He's standing behind a lectern. He might have a notebook in front of him. The notebook might imply he knows something. There's probably a projector screen or a chalkboard or something behind him. You have a classroom of peers around you. Maybe you're in the room by yourself. All of that is context. You've got to create that context for the model. I told him, I think of ChatGPT or any of these models like climbing a hill. Right? You're going up the hill and you get to the top of the hill and there's 10 million gurus at the top of the hill. Literally the entirety of human knowledge. So call it 8 billion gurus at the top of the hill. I can't picture that in my head. I have been on stage in front of 750,000 people when I was 13 at World Youth Day in Colorado. I know what an army of 750,000 people looks like. It wasn't an army of like weapons. I can't imagine standing in front of an army of 750,000 people. So I just think of that image being on stage in front of 750,000 people in a field at Cherry Creek Park. I was 13. That is ChatGPT to me. The sound that comes from 750,000 people is incomprehensible if you've never experienced it. But picture the largest crowd you can possibly imagine in the biggest field you can possibly imagine, and you're standing above that field. That is you every time you walk into ChatGPT or walk into a model. That is literally you every time you open ChatGPT. You were talking to 8 billion people. But picture the largest crowd you can picture. There's a great scene in the three-body problem, where they all turn into, I won't spoil it for you. If you haven't watched the three-body problem, there is an excellent episode where there is a human computer. And these guys all have flags, and the flags represent 1 and 0s. Just go watch it. It is so cool. I thought it was so cool. So it's 10 million people in a field in that case. But just imagine ChatGPT is 10 million people, or 8 billion, or the largest crowd you can possibly imagine. And you go and say, can you please help me write an article for my paper for school? It's about snakes. What you're going to get back is 8 billion answers. And it's going to sound like, that's what you're going to hear. What you got to do when you go to one of these models is say, okay, I know there's 8 billion people here. I know this is 10 million gurus on a hill. I just climbed the hill by opening ChatGPT or whatever. Now I would like someone to come forward. Maybe just tell me, who are your top 5 experts in snakes? And if you can get more specific than that, tell me your top 5 experts in rattlesnakes. Who are the top 5 experts in rattlesnakes? You could totally start your ChatGPT prompt with that. It will give you those 5 people. Then the next thing you say is, okay, I now want you to be a combination of those 5 people. So that's the start of your ChatGPT prompt, right? Then the next thing you say is, okay, now that you're those 5 people, I am trying to X. I am trying to write a paper for school about boa constrictors. You, as your expert in snakes, please ask me questions to help me write the best possible paper so that I can, Y, get a great grade. Write the best damn paper that's ever been written about boa constrictors. Whatever the goal is, right? Hi, Kenneth. Thanks for being in here, man. Nice to see you, too. So, okay, so if you're using ChatGPT, consider it 1 million gurus, 10 million gurus, the largest crowd you can imagine sitting on a hill every time you open it, and get it to pull out its best people for you, right? It's the genie on so that's the first thing. Get it to pull out the specific level of expertise or knowledge for whatever it is you're trying to do right now. Start your prompt with that. And then the next step is, okay, now I am trying to X. Your job is to help me to Y, fill in X and Y, whatever those things are. Okay, this isn't a complicated math problem. I am trying to whatever, and I would like you to help me do that by whatever. Or you could even ask it, I am trying to whatever. Now that you are an expert and the top 5 experts on boa constrictors in the world, tell me the best way to help me X. Get venom from a snake. I don't know, whatever your thing is. It is a genie on a hill. It doesn't want to trick you. But if you don't then ask it, what do you need to know from me in order to help me X, right? You want to ask it. And then, okay, so that's the second thing. First thing is consider it 1 million gurus on a hill. Second thing is, what do you need to know from me? This is really 2 topics. I started this talking about emotional attachment to images, and now I'm talking about how to use ChatGPT, whatever. Anyway, 2 different topics. But the words we use really matter. I guess that's the summary of this whole thing. The words we use matter. They matter in these models, but they also matter in real life. Jim Rohn has a great training about this where he comes out and says, if you say to someone, what is the matter with you? That is totally different than saying to someone, what's troubling you? Right? If someone comes to you and says, what's the matter with you? Somebody comes to you, even with the same facial expression, what's troubling you? Those are two very different experiences that you will have with that person that day, right? If you say, what's the matter with you? What's troubling you? Okay, I'm going to wrap this up. But go to ChatGPT, Million Gurus on a Hill. Get it to pull out, or ChatGPT or whatever model you're using, get it to pull out its experts by saying, who are the top 5 experts in X, whatever it is you're doing right now, right? Great. Now that you are those 5 experts combined, I would like you to help me X. Please ask. So that's the second part. The third part is, please ask me questions one at a time. Don't have it just ask you a whole list of questions, because it will give you 25 questions and it'll be exhausting. You won't do anything. And you'll think, oh, AI doesn't work. Have it ask you questions one at a time. So first thing, Million Gurus on a Hill, get it to pull forward its experts. Second thing is, what's the second thing? I'm running on the third thing. Second thing is, I am trying to now be those 5 experts. I am trying to, what was I saying the second? Anyway, it's going to pull forward its experts. Out of those experts, you're going to say, please ask me questions one at a time, so that you don't get this genie kind of effect where the genie's there to trick you and everything you touch turns to gold. Well, literally everything you touch turns to gold. Great, that's not what I wanted, right? What do you need to know from me? Ask me questions one at a time, because it will use deductive reasoning. I'm going to have to make a video about each of these things. But basically, ask me questions one at a time, and then it will just start asking you questions. And the reason you do that is because it does deductive reasoning. If you ask it to ask you questions and you don't say one at a time, it's going to ask you 25 questions. But if you ask it questions one at a time, please ask me questions one at a time, it will ask you one question, and it will use the answer from your first question to inform what other questions it still needs to ask you. So it might only need to ask you 5 questions. But then you've got to evaluate what it comes back with, because I'm going to make a video about each one of these things. When it comes back, if somebody wants that, please comment, or please just comment on this video if you're watching it after the fact. If you'd like me to make a video about each one of these things. I've spent a lot of time with AI in the last 2 years, and I've gotten some pretty crazy, ridiculous results, good results, also terrible results. But for the most part, figured out how to get some pretty good results out of it. So I'm happy to help you with that if you want. But just comment, let me know. Anyway, when it answers those questions for you, it's like the genie coming out of the lamp, but you need to help the genie get you what you want by having it ask you questions one at a time so that you can get what you want. Okay, the words we use matter. I'm probably going to make a whole series if people like this, if this goes anywhere, but the words we use really do matter. So when you're using these models, make sure follow some kind of structure like that, and you will get just incredible, amazing results that will blow your mind. All right, everybody have a great day. Thanks for watching. If you're on here, I appreciate you. Kenneth, if you're still in here, hi. For those of you lurking and not saying anything, that's all good. No worries. And I hope you have a great day. Thank you very much.